Right in the heart of Barcelona, there's this building that looks like it's literally growing out of the ground. It's like a forest made of stone, a symphony of light and color, and it's a construction site that has captivated the world for more than a century. This is the story of La Sagrada Familia, the absolutely magnificent and famously unfinished masterpiece.
So, yeah, it's the big question on everyone's mind. We're in an age where we can throw up skyscrapers in just a few years, right? So how on earth is a single church still under construction after almost a century and a half? Well, the answer is just as complex and fascinating as the building itself.
Just to give you a sense of the scale we're talking about, the first stone was laid way back in 1882. Get this, that's before the first cars were even on the road, before the Eiffel Tower was a thing. This project has spanned generations, world wars, entire technological revolutions, and it's still going. To understand why, we've got to go back to the beginning.
You really can't talk about La Sagrada Familia without talking about one man, the brilliant, maybe a little eccentric and deeply devout Catalan architect Antoni Gaudí. He took over the project just a year after it began and completely turned it into something the world had literally never seen before. And that right there, that just perfectly sums up Gaudí's whole philosophy. He famously said his client was not in a hurry. See, he wasn't just putting up a building, he was creating a tribute to God. And for him, that meant perfection was way more important than speed. He absolutely knew he wouldn't live to see it finished. And in a way, that was kind of the point.
So what was this vision that made everything so complicated? Well, Gaudí did something really cool. He blended two major styles. He took the incredible, soaring ambition of Gothic architecture, the pointy arches and web-like vaults, and then he infused it with the spirit of Art Nouveau, which pulls its inspiration straight from nature with all its flowing, organic shapes and incredible floral details.
And you can totally see this vision just bursting to life on the outside of the building. The Nativity facade, for example, shows scenes from the Bible with these stunningly detailed, life-size statues that look like they're growing right out of the stone. Then there's the Glory facade, which is still being built. It's planned to be this breathtaking mix of intricate carvings and vibrant stained glass. Every single surface tells a story, and that level of detail, well, it just takes time.
But it wasn't just Gaudí's crazy complex vision that caused the delays. The 20th century was a turbulent time, to say the least, and La Sagrada Familia was caught right in the middle of it. History itself just kept throwing one obstacle after another at the project.
If you look at the timeline, you can see just how fragile this whole thing was. Work first ground to a halt in 1915, partly because, and this is key, the project has always been funded only by private donations and ticket sales. That's a slow and pretty uncertain way to fund something this big. But the most devastating blow, no question, came in 1926 with Gaudí's sudden, tragic death. Without its visionary, the project basically stalled. It took until 1959, more than 30 years later, for construction to really get going again.
Okay. So we've got the brand vision, we've got all the historical setbacks, but there's a third massive reason this took so long: the sheer monumental scale and complexity of the structure itself. This isn't just a building, it's an architectural and engineering puzzle that has taken generations of craftspeople to solve. So let's just try to wrap our heads around the scale here. When it's finally finished, its main tower will reach 170 meters. That's about 560 feet. That will make it the tallest church in the entire world. And it was intentionally designed to be just a little bit shorter than a nearby hill, because Gaudí believed that the work of man should never surpass the work of God.
And the footprint, the actual ground it covers, just as huge. The whole complex is spread over 8 hectares, which is almost 20 acres. To put that in perspective, that's like 15 American football fields laid side by side. The amount of stone, material, and just pure human effort for a site that large is staggering.
And it's not just the overall size. Even the individual pieces are just monumental. The central dome alone is over 55 meters high, making it one of the biggest in Europe. So you start to realize this isn't one project, it's hundreds of massive projects all rolled into one. Gaudí invented totally new structural systems, a puzzle so complex it took future architects decades to figure it out, even with computers.
But here's the thing. Despite all of that, all those challenges, the work has continued. And over the decades, the Sagrada Familia has transformed from this incredibly ambitious blueprint into a global icon, a symbol of the city of Barcelona itself. Its importance on the world stage was really locked in back in 1984 when it was named a UNESCO World Heritage Site. And that designation recognizes it as more than just a local landmark, it's a treasure for all of humanity, a true masterpiece of human creative genius that has to be preserved.
You see, the basilica is really the ultimate expression of this unique artistic movement called Catalan modernism. The whole idea was to break away from rigid traditional styles and instead celebrate the flowing, organic shapes you see in nature and just fill every single space with rich, beautiful detail. La Sagrada Familia isn't just an example of this movement, it's the crown jewel.
And honestly, the only way to really get it, to really understand the scale, is to experience this legacy for yourself. If you take a guided tour, you can start to decipher the symbolism that's packed into every corner. And climbing one of the towers, it gives you this unforgettable view of Barcelona, framed by Gaudi's fantastical stonework. It's just incredible. So, after this epic, century-and-a-half-long story, there is actually an end in sight. The current goal for completion is 2026, and that date was chosen for a very specific reason: to mark the 100th anniversary of Gaudi's death. A pretty fitting tribute to the man who started it all, don't you think? And all of this kind of leaves you with one big question, right? What does a project like this truly represent? Is it the ultimate symbol of human persistence, this refusal to ever give up on a beautiful vision? Or is it a monument to an impossible ambition? Maybe the answer is that it's both. And that, right there, is what makes La Sagrada Familia so absolutely extraordinary.